A single mother's legacy. A single mother and her baby get trapped in an elevator with a millionaire CEO. What seemed like just a setback transforms into a revelation that connects their pasts, secrets about inheritances, fraud, and a forgotten heroine come to light inside that cabin, and the fate of an entire family begins to change the moment the doors close. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. We'll continue. I promise this will be the best story you'll hear in your life. Emily pressed the elevator button with difficulty while balancing Lily, her 6-month-old daughter, asleep in one arm and a shopping bag in the other. The lights of the old building in downtown New York flickered, betraying the precarious electrical installation. After an exhausting day at the bakery where she worked as a clerk, her only wish was to lie down next to her daughter in her small apartment on the 4th floor. The elevator arrived with a metallic noise. The doors opened slowly, revealing a tall man in an impeccable suit who stepped aside, making room. "Good evening," he said with a slight smile, as Emily entered and adjusted Lily against her chest. "Good evening," she replied, pressing the button for the 4th floor with her elbow. The man had already selected the top floor, the penthouse. Emily didn't know him. Although the building was small and most residents knew each other by name, he must be the new tenant of the penthouse, about whom everyone had been commenting for weeks. "I just moved in," he commented, as if reading her thoughts. "Nathan Brooks." "Emily Taylor. And this is Lily," she responded, indicating the sleeping baby. The elevator began its slow ascent when a sudden crash made the lights flicker. The cabin shuddered, stopped abruptly, and plunged into darkness. Lily woke up startled and began to cry. "It's okay, sweetheart, it's okay," whispered Emily, gently rocking her. Nathan quickly took out his phone, activating the flashlight. "Looks like we're stuck," he observed, trying to activate the emergency button, which didn't respond. He called the front desk, but no one answered. "I'll try the building maintenance," he said, dialing another number. "No signal. How about yours?" "My phone is out of battery," Emily replied, still comforting Lily. "The building manager should show up soon. This happens quite frequently." The minutes passed slowly. Lily finally calmed down and fell back asleep. Nathan sat on the elevator floor, loosening his tie, and offered his briefcase as a seat for Emily, who accepted, grateful for the gesture. "Your first day in the building and already stuck in the elevator," she commented with a tired smile. "Not the best welcome." Nathan chuckled softly. "I've been through worse situations. Actually, this building, even with its problems, is a palace compared to where I grew up." The silence that followed was interrupted by Lily's soft crying. "She must be hungry," murmured Emily, searching in her bag for a bottle of water. "I traded my last pack of diapers for her milk today." Nathan observed the young mother feeding her child with a tenderness that contrasted with the evident fatigue on her face. "Do you live alone with her?" asked Nathan, breaking the silence. "Yes. Her father, well, he decided he wasn't ready for responsibilities when he found out about the pregnancy." Emily adjusted Lily in her arms. "But we're doing fine. I work at the bakery on the corner, and the owner lets me bring Lily. It's not my dream job, but it pays the rent, and at least it did until now." "What do you mean?" "The building manager gave me a notice today. The rent will increase by 60% next month. I don't know how I'll manage to pay." Nathan frowned. 60%, that's absurd. Is that legal?" "Apparently, yes. He says they're orders from the new owner." Emily looked at Nathan with curiosity. "Did you buy the penthouse, or are you renting?" "Bought it," he replied, without going into details. An awkward silence settled between them. "And your family?" asked Nathan, changing the subject. "Can't they help with the little one?" Emily's face saddened. "My father left when I was a child. My mother was a teacher, raised me on her own. Her voice faltered. "She left us 3 years ago. She was an amazing woman, you know, public school teacher in the East Side, dedicated her life to children that nobody else looked at." Nathan suddenly tensed. "A teacher? At which school?" "Hope Public School on the East Side. Why?" Nathan swallowed hard. By any chance was her name Helen Taylor? Emily's eyes widened in the dim light. How do you know? Nathan's hands trembled slightly. 25 years ago, there was a fire at that school. I was 8 years old. A teacher ran into the burning building and saved 3 children who were trapped. He paused, taking a deep breath. I was one of those children. Emily let out a gasp of surprise. My mother never told me about that. Helen Taylor changed my life that day, continued Nathan, his voice choked with emotion. I was living in a children's shelter. I had nobody. After the fire, she visited me several times in the hospital, brought books, helped me with lessons. It was thanks to her that I got a scholarship to a good school years later. Emily held Lily tighter now, as if the baby was her anchor. That's incredible. Mom never talked about saving anyone. She always said she just did what any decent person would do. Typical of her, smiled Nathan with tearful eyes. Helen didn't consider herself a hero, but she was the most important person in my life. After I left the shelter, I lost contact with her. I tried to find her many times, but she moved around a lot, explained Emily. Worked at various schools. In recent years, she was in this building. This is where I grew up between comings and goings. A metallic noise interrupted the conversation. The elevator trembled, and the lights flickered again before fully turning on. The cabin slowly started moving again. Looks like we're saved, commented Nathan, standing up and extending his hand to help Emily. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, the building manager was waiting with a stern expression. Miss Taylor, I need to talk to you, he said, handing her an envelope. Here's the official notification. The new owner demands the increase or vacancy within 30 days. Emily felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. Lily began to cry again, as if sensing her mother's distress. Nathan exited the elevator and confronted the manager. Who authorized this increase? The new owner of the building, sir. Brooks, Nathan Brooks, he completed firmly. And I am the new owner of this building. I didn't authorize any increase. The manager's face turned pale. Emily looked at both of them, confused and surprised. There must be some mistake, Mr. Brooks. I received instructions from a development company. There's no mistake, interrupted Nathan. I want to see all documents related to this building in my office tomorrow, 8 o'clock. The manager nervously nodded and walked away. Nathan turned to Emily, who was staring at him with a mixture of relief and distrust. You're the new owner of the building? Why didn't you say so before? I didn't have the opportunity, he replied, embarrassed. But I promise I'll investigate what's happening. Nobody will be evicted. Emily didn't know whether to thank him or remain on guard. This man was the same boy her mother had saved, now the owner of the building where she lived. The coincidence seemed too great to be true. The next morning, Nathan arrived early at the building. He had spent the night awake, revisiting long-kept memories. The image of Helen Taylor with her gentle smile and determined eyes seemed more vivid than ever. And now, discovering that Emily was her daughter seemed like an intervention of fate. The building manager, Oliver Miles, was waiting in the administration office with an apprehensive expression and a folder full of documents. His face had red blotches from nervousness. Mr. Brooks, here are all the contracts and records as requested, he said, pushing the folder across the desk. Nathan leafed through the documents carefully. Something wasn't right. Who exactly approved these increases? Horizon Development Company. They said they represented the new owner, and I have no relationship with that company, interrupted Nathan, looking up from the papers. As the owner, I demand explanations. Oliver turned even paler. There was a misunderstanding, certainly. Horizon Development has shown interest in the building for months. When they heard about the sale, they contacted me offering a commission to facilitate the vacancy. Nathan felt his anger growing. Are you telling me you accepted a bribe to pressure residents to leave? It wasn't exactly a bribe, Mr. Brooks. Just a consultancy to... This is illegal and you know it, Nathan hit the desk. I want the names of everyone involved in this scheme and prepare to return every cent you improperly received from the residents. Meanwhile, Emily was preparing breakfast for Lily in her small apartment. The sleepless night had left dark circles under her eyes, The encounter with Nathan and the revelations about her mother had deeply affected her. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Mrs. Clara, a 70-year-old woman who had lived in the building since its inauguration and had been a great friend of Helen. "I came to see how you're doing, dear. I heard about the absurd rent increase," Emily invited her in and served coffee. "It seems it was a mistake, Mrs. Clara. The new owner of the building didn't authorize these increases." "New owner?" The lady adjusted her glasses. "I thought you knew." "Knew what?" "This building. Well, your mother never told you." Emily sat down, confused. "Told me what?" Mrs. Clara sighed, holding Emily's hands in hers. "Helen bought this building almost 10 years ago. She saved her whole life for this, dear. She said it was her insurance for the future. For your future." The cup slipped from Emily's hands, spilling coffee on the table. "That's impossible. If Mom owned it, how was the building sold and why did I pay rent all these years?" "I don't know how it was sold, but as for the rent, your mother had her reasons. I think she feared your ex-husband, that terrible man who harassed you when you got pregnant." Emily felt dizzy with the revelation. She remembered how Chris, Lily's father, had become aggressive when she refused to get an abortion. The threats, the stalking, until he finally disappeared when she obtained a restraining order. "Helen made me promise I would only tell you this if it was absolutely necessary," continued Mrs. Clara. "She had an envelope stored with all the documents. She told me where it was in case something happened to her." Minutes later, the two women were standing in front of a shoebox, hidden in the back of a closet. Inside, a sealed brown envelope with the inscription, "For Emily, when the time is right." With trembling hands, Emily opened the envelope. Inside were deeds, receipts, and a property transfer document signed by Helen Taylor, passing the entire building to Emily's name. The date was 3 years ago, shortly before Helen's death. "I don't understand," murmured Emily. "If the building is legally mine, how could someone sell it?" "That's what we need to find out," responded Mrs. Clara. On the other side of the building, Nathan was confronting the manager with more discoveries. "These receipts have been tampered with," he accused, pointing to discrepancies in the documents. "And there are residents paying different amounts for the same size apartment. This is housing discrimination." Oliver was sweating profusely. "Mr. Brooks, understand that managing an old building like this—" "Don't try to fool me," cut Nathan. "I want the complete list of all residents and how much each is paying by the end of the day." When Nathan left the office, he found Emily in the hallway holding an envelope. Her face was pale but determined. "We need to talk," she said, "in private." In Emily's apartment, with Lily playing on the rug, Nathan examined the documents with growing astonishment. "These seem legitimate," he concluded. "If they are, you're the true owner of this building, not me." "But how did you buy something that already belonged to me?" Nathan checked his phone, verifying transaction details. "I bought it from a company called Central Real Estate. They presented all the documents, apparently in order. I paid a considerable amount, below market value, but I didn't suspect because the building needs renovations." "Central Real Estate," repeated Emily thoughtfully. "The manager mentioned that company several times, said they were specialists in revitalizing old areas of the city." Nathan frowned. "We need to investigate this real estate company. I have contacts who can help." That afternoon, while Emily was at the bakery with Lily, Nathan received a call from one of his lawyers. "Mr. Brooks, we found concerning information about Central Real Estate. It's a shell company created just 8 months ago. The only registered partner is a man named Chris Davis." The name meant nothing to Nathan, but when he mentioned it to Emily later, he saw her face turn pale. "Chris Davis is Lily's father," she whispered. "He must have discovered about the building. That explains why he suddenly disappeared a few months ago." Nathan felt a chill. "Does he have access to your personal documents?" "Yes, we lived together for a while. He knew my social security number, had copies of documents." "That's enough for elaborate fraud," concluded Nathan, "especially if he has accomplices in registry offices or city hall." Emily hugged Lily tightly. "He was always obsessed with money. When he discovered I didn't have a hidden fortune as he imagined because I lived in this building, he was furious. But he didn't know the building was yours? Neither did I. Mom kept it a secret, probably fearing he would try something like this. Emily wiped away a tear. What do we do now? First, we file a formal complaint, replied Nathan, determined. Then we confront the manager. I'm sure he's involved in this fraud. As they headed to the manager's apartment, they were surprised by a commotion in the lobby. Oliver was surrounded by a group of irritated residents, all with increased notices in hand. We can't afford this. Amount. This is absurd. Where will we live with so little time to leave? The manager, visibly nervous, tried to calm the situation. These are orders from the new owner. I can't do anything. That's a lie, declared Nathan loudly, attracting everyone's attention. I am the supposed new owner and I never authorized these increases. A murmur ran through the group. Oliver shot a look of pure hatred at Nathan. Mr. Brooks is confused, said the manager, forcing a smile. The development company he represents... I don't represent any development company, interrupted Nathan. And there's something you all need to know. Emily stepped forward with Lily in her arms. This building legally belongs to me. I have the documents that prove it. My mother, Helen Taylor, bought it years ago and transferred it to my name before she left us. The reactions were immediate. Some residents seemed incredulous, others confused. Mrs. Clara approached, supporting Emily. It's true, Helen told. Tell me about this. She wanted to protect Emily and ensure a home for her and her granddaughter. The manager let out a nervous laugh. This is absurd. I have official documents of the building's sale. Fraudulent documents, countered Nathan, obtained through a shell company created by Miss Taylor's ex-partner. Oliver turned pale. This is defamation. I have witnesses. I have evidence. You have accomplices, that's what you have, said Emily, confronting him, and all of you will be investigated. In the days that followed, the building transformed into a silent battlefield. On one side, Emily and Nathan, armed with the found documents, tried to prove the fraud. On the other, manager Oliver and his allies, which included some residents influenced by promises of financial advantages. We can't trust this absurd story, declared Mr. August, a retired accountant from the 3rd floor during a tense condo meeting. How would a simple teacher have money to buy an entire building? And why would the daughter pay rent if she owned the place? It doesn't make sense. Several residents agreed, casting suspicious looks at Emily, who held restless Lily in her lap. My mother saved her whole life, she responded, keeping her voice firm despite her nervousness. She lived modestly to invest in the future, and I didn't know the building was mine because she kept it a secret to protect me. Protect you from what? This sounds like a soap opera, mocked a woman. Nathan intervened. From the man who defrauded the building's sale using falsified documents. We've already filed a formal complaint with the police and hired a team of lawyers to investigate the case. The manager smiled with disdain. Meanwhile, the building continues to deteriorate. The legitimate new owner, represented by Horizon Development, offered fair compensation for everyone to leave. It's the best solution. The assembly ended without consensus, but with a clear division among the residents. Some believed Emily, especially the older ones who knew Helen. Others, fearing homelessness, preferred to accept the developer's offers. Upon returning to Emily's apartment, Nathan seemed worried. I received a disturbing call, he confessed. My business partners are pressuring me to give up this fight. Why? Asked Emily, putting Lily to sleep. Horizon Development is an investor in several of our projects. They threaten to withdraw funding if I continue investigating the fraud. Emily sat down, stunned by the news. Then you need to back off. You can't risk your company for our sake. Nathan shook his head. I can't abandon you now. Not after discovering how your mother saved my life. It would betray everything she stood for. The look of gratitude Emily gave him made his heart race. In recent days, while fighting together, something beyond the common cause had been born. Between them, a connection that neither dared to name yet. The next morning, a surprise awaited at the front desk. A grey-haired lady, supported by a cane, was asking for Emily. I'm Catherine Adams, Helen's friend from school days, she introduced herself. I heard about what's happening and came to bring something your mother entrusted to me. In an improvised meeting room, Catherine opened an old folder. Helen asked me to keep copies of all important documents in case something happened to the originals. Her eyes shimmered with emotion. She was always cautious since she was young. When she bought this building, she made sure to register everything correctly in different registry offices. Among the papers was something Emily didn't know about, a notarized statement where Helen explained her decision to hide the building's ownership from Emily, specifically mentioning Chris's threats after Lily's birth. Your mother feared he would try to take the building if he found out, explained Catherine. That's why she instructed the previous manager to maintain the rent charade. Only a few people knew the truth. And what happened to the previous manager? Asked Nathan. Retired 2 years ago. That's when Oliver took over, recommended by someone from City Hall. Helen never trusted him, but she was too sick to intervene. While examining the new documents, Nathan received an urgent message. One of the investigators he hired had found connections between Oliver, Chris Davis, and a registry office employee. They had evidence of document falsification and bribery. We need to act quickly, said Nathan. They must be destroying evidence right now. When they arrived at the building's administration office, they found the door locked. From the noises, someone was inside. Nathan knocked hard. Oliver, we know you're in there. Open the door. The sound of papers being shuffled intensified. Some residents, attracted by the commotion, began to gather in the hallway. I'll call a locksmith, suggested Mrs. Clara. There's no time, replied Nathan, stepping back to charge at the door. At that moment, a smell of smoke invaded the hallway. Thin grey spirals escaped from under the door. Fire! Someone shouted. He's burning documents! Nathan didn't hesitate. With a strong blow, he managed to break down the door. A cloud of smoke escaped into the hallway. Inside, Oliver was standing, next to a metal trash can where papers were burning rapidly. On the desk, an open laptop showed a bank transfer in progress. Stay back, shouted the manager, holding what appeared to be a cell phone. I'll blow up the entire building if anyone comes closer. Nathan quickly assessed the situation. That's not a detonator, Oliver. It's your cell phone. Don't make your situation worse. Emily had handed Lily to Mrs. Clara and grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall. With precise movements, she put out the fire in the trash can before it could spread. It's over, Oliver, she said firmly. The police are on their way. The manager, realizing he was cornered, tried to escape by pushing through the residents. Nathan managed to grab him by the arm, but received a blow to the face that made him stagger. Taking advantage of the confusion, Oliver ran toward the service stairs. 2 younger residents tried to chase him, but he had already disappeared. However, he left behind crucial evidence, the still-connected laptop and several partially burned documents that incriminated not only him, but also Chris Davis and a registry office clerk. We managed to save enough, concluded Nathan, examining the charred papers. And the computer should contain more evidence. When the police arrived, they were presented with a complete dossier. The officers registered the case as real estate fraud, document falsification, and attempted arson. We'll locate those involved, assured the detective. The evidence is compelling. That night, gathered in Emily's apartment, Nathan and some allied residents discreetly celebrated the partial victory. Lily slept peacefully, oblivious to the turbulence of recent days. I still can't believe my mother bought this entire building, commented Emily, serving coffee to those present. How did she manage to save so much money? Catherine smiled. Helen was more than a simple teacher. She invested wisely. Started with small savings, then bought an apartment, sold it at a profit, bought 2 smaller ones. She was patient and intelligent. Like herself, added Mrs. Clara affectionately. Always thinking about the future, always planning. Nathan observed Emily with admiration. The same spirit of Helen seemed to live in her, the silent determination, the discreet courage, the ability to think of others even in difficult moments. What do you plan to do with the building now? He asked. The question silenced everyone. Emily took a deep breath before answering. I want to keep it, not as a distant owner, but as part of this community. This place was my mother's dream. a place where ordinary people could live with dignity in the heart of the city. Those present applauded the decision. For Nathan, however, another thought persisted. "Emily, I know we just met under unusual circumstances, but I want to propose something." He hesitated, searching for the right words. "I have experience in property management and resources to invest in necessary renovations. We could form a partnership." "What kind of partnership?" she asked, wary. "I would finance the building improvements and help with administration. In exchange, we would receive a minimal percentage of the rents, just to cover costs. The building would remain yours, of course." Emily considered the proposal. "Why would you do this?" "Because I owe my life to your mother," Nathan replied with sincerity. "And because—" he hesitated again. "I believe this place represents something important, something that goes beyond simple ownership." Before Emily could respond, her cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. When she answered, her face turned pale. "That was from the police station," she said after hanging up. "They found Chris. He was trying to board a bus to Canada with fake documents. Oliver was also located at a hotel near the bus station." A collective sigh of relief ran through the room. Nathan squeezed Emily's hand in a silent gesture of support. "It's over," she murmured, finally allowing herself to smile. "It's finally over?" But they all knew that, in fact, something new was just beginning. 3 months passed. Fall painted the trees in the square across from the building with golden and reddish tones. In Emily's apartment, now renovated and more welcoming, Lily was taking her first steps, wobbly and fearless, while her mother watched with pride. "She has her grandmother's determination," commented Nathan, who was observing the scene leaning against the doorframe. The relationship between them had evolved gradually, from the initial distrust to the partnership in the fight for the building, and now something deeper, not yet fully declared, but present in every gesture, in every exchanged look. The police investigation against Chris Davis, Oliver, and their accomplices was advancing. The evidence was compelling, and the three awaited trial. The real estate fraud had been unmasked, and the building officially recognized as Emily's legitimate property. Nathan's partnership proposal was accepted with some modifications. He financed the urgent structural renovations, while Emily organized a new management model for the condo, with direct participation of the residents in decisions. "We need to discuss the budget for next month's works," reminded Nathan, consulting his tablet. The engineering company sent 3 options for the roof repair. Emily smiled, picking up Lily. "We can look at that after the meeting with the residents." Mrs. Clara prepared a presentation about the community garden project on the rooftop. The transformation of the building went beyond physical renovations. The previously neglected space gained new life, with projects that strengthened the bonds between neighbors. The old meeting room, where the fraudulent manager almost caused a fire, now housed a small community library, with books donated by the residents themselves. "Have you thought about going back to school?" asked Nathan as they walked together to the meeting. Emily adjusted Lily in the stroller. "I've been thinking about it, actually. I always wanted to get a degree in education, like Mom." "You would make an excellent teacher," he commented. "And I could help with Lily while you study." The offer hung in the air, loaded with unspoken meanings. Emily felt her heart race. In recent months, Nathan had become a constant presence, not only in the building's administration, but also in her personal life. Lily adored him, stretching her little arms whenever she saw him arrive. The condo meeting proceeded in a friendly atmosphere, very different from the tense assemblies of the past. Projects were discussed, suggestions noted, commitments made. Emily, who previously felt intimidated speaking in public, now conducted the meetings naturally, listening to everyone with genuine attention. "You've grown a lot in these months," observed Mrs. Clara at the end of the meeting. Helen would be proud. The mention of her mother still brought a pang of longing, but now mixed with a feeling of continuity, of purpose. Later, when Lily finally fell asleep, Emily and Nathan sat on the small balcony of the apartment, contemplating the city lights that gradually turned on in the horizon. "I received an interesting proposal today," commented Nathan, breaking the comfortable silence. A friend's company wants to buy this building for a value well above market price. Emily turned to him, surprised. And what did you answer? That the decision isn't mine, obviously. He looked into her eyes. But I confess I was curious about your reaction. Emily contemplated the city below before responding. I wouldn't sell this place for any amount of money. It's not just a property, it's part of my mother's history, my history, and now, Lily's history. Nathan smiled, as if already expecting that answer. That's exactly what I thought you would say. And what about your company? She asked. Is it still facing problems for having positioned itself against Horizon Development? Nathan's face took on a more serious expression. Yes and no. I lost. Some investors, it's true, but I also gained respect and new partners who value ethics above quick profit. He paused, as if pondering his next words. Actually, this experience made me rethink many things. I spent years building a successful company, but rarely questioned the real impact of what we did. Developing luxury properties while traditional communities are expelled from their neighborhoods, it's not the legacy I want to leave. Emily observed the sincerity in his eyes. And what would that legacy be? Something similar to what we're doing here, recovering historic buildings while respecting their essence and the people who live in them, creating spaces that unite instead of segregate. He smiled, a little embarrassed by his own idealism. Sounds naive for a businessman, doesn't it? It sounds human, she replied, lightly touching his hand, and necessary. The brief touch transformed into intertwined hands. The silence that followed was loaded with contained emotion. Emily, there's something I need to say. Nathan took a deep breath. In these months, while we fought for the building, while I got to know every corner of this place and every story of the residents, I realized I found much more than I expected when I moved here. She felt her heart race. What did you find? A chance to start over, to build something meaningful. He hesitated, seeking courage. And I found you and Lily. A family I never imagined I could have. Emily felt tears forming in her eyes. Nathan, I'm not proposing anything formal yet, he hastened to explain. I know we need time, but I want you to know that my feelings for you go far beyond gratitude for what your mother did for me or our business partnership. Emily didn't respond. With words. Leaning in slowly, she pressed her lips to his in a gentle kiss, loaded with silent promises. The next morning, the entire building seemed different to Emily's eyes. Not just because of the ongoing renovations, but because of the feeling of belonging, of future. As she left Lily with Mrs. Clara to go to the bakery, she found a pile of correspondence at the front desk. Among the letters, an official envelope caught her attention. It was from the Municipal Department of Education. Inside, an invitation to the inauguration of a commemorative plaque at Hope Public School, honoring teachers who made a difference in the community. Helen Taylor's name topped the list. With a heart overflowing with emotion, Emily called Nathan. I found something incredible, she said, her voice choked. A tribute to Mom. The ceremony will be next Saturday. We'll be there, he replied, without hesitation. You, me, and Lily. The day of the tribute dawned sunny, as if the sky wanted to participate in the celebration. The school, very different from the one where the fire had occurred decades ago, was decorated with colorful banners and flowers. In the central courtyard, a bronze plaque shone under the sun, in memory of the educators who planted seeds of transformation. Helen Taylor, 1970-2022. Her courage saved lives. Her love educated generations. During the ceremony, Helen's former students shared moving stories. One of them, now a doctor at a public hospital, described how she had secured a scholarship that changed his destiny. Another, now a teacher at the same school, told how Helen encouraged him to believe in himself when no one else did. Nathan, sitting next to Emily with Lily in his lap, squeezed her hand while tears silently ran down both their faces. When his turn to speak came, he stood up, handing the baby to Emily. My name is Nathan Brooks, he began, his voice firm despite the emotion, and I would be dead if it weren't for Helen Taylor. A respectful silence took over the environment. As he narrated the rescue during the fire and how that act of courage had redefined his life. I spent years looking for her, wanting to thank her. Fate, in its mysterious wisdom, ended up leading me to the same building where her daughter and granddaughter lived. He smiled at Emily. I couldn't thank Helen personally, but I have the opportunity to honor her legacy every day, helping to preserve the home she built for her family and for so many other people. At the end of the ceremony, while talking with those present, an elderly lady approached Emily timidly. "You look very much like your mother," she commented, emotional. "I have something that belonged to her." The lady handed over a small flash drive. "Helen asked me to keep this. They're videos of classes and meetings at the school. I thought you might like to have these memories." That night, gathered in the apartment, Emily, Nathan, and some closer residents watched the videos. Helen's firm and loving voice filled the room, talking about education, hope, and the transformative power of small gestures. In one of the recordings during an elementary school graduation, Helen spoke, "The true legacy isn't in buildings or monuments, but in the lives we touch, in the seeds we plant without knowing where or when they will bloom. Each child we educate is a promise for the future, a possibility for a better world." Emily squeezed Nathan's hand, emotional. Lily, who was playing on the rug, stopped upon hearing the voice of the grandmother she never knew. For a magical moment, 3 generations seemed connected by an invisible thread of love and purpose. When everyone had left and Lily was sleeping, peacefully Emily and Nathan remained on the balcony, contemplating the starry night. "You know what impresses me most?" she commented. "How everything started with a broken elevator." Nathan smiled, embracing her by the shoulders. "An elevator that stopped so our lives could move forward." "Do you believe in destiny?" asked Emily, nestling against his chest. "I believe in encounters that redefine our paths," he replied. "Like your mother's encounter with me in that fire, like our encounter in the elevator." Emily looked at the sky, imagining her mother smiling somewhere. "She always said there are no coincidences, only stories waiting to be discovered." "Then this is our story," concluded Nathan, kissing her softly. "And we're still writing its best chapters." In the room next door, Lily slept peacefully, protected by the love that transcended generations and by the home that, much more than walls and roof, was now a symbol of fresh starts, of rebuilt family, of renewed hope. The elevator, completely renovated, now worked perfectly. But for Emily and Nathan, that old metal cabin would always be more than a simple means of transportation. It would be the sacred space where past and present met, where 2 lives marked by the same extraordinary woman discovered they were destined to build a future together. Dear listeners, we hope Emily and Nathan's story has touched your hearts. To continue this journey of emotions, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories. Find it here by clicking on the left. If you like this narrative, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave your like on the video. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the complexity of life, meaningful encounters, and unexpected fresh starts.